Alright, I have no horse in your race, but you are not being taught the truth if you're going to school right now. Look at this right here. This is an Egyptian mummy. You see that? Inside that Egyptian mummy, no, not Egyptian mummy, this is Egyptian statue. Inside an Egyptian statue is an actual mummy. You see that? Now they're not going to teach you that at your school. Alright, here we are coming down from this guy's foot. They're going to show from his foot coming down. Now that melted, see that? They're saying it melted. That's blood coming out of his foot. Now they're going down through his head, which is a real head. And now look at this. This is a statue that was standing up. Now look at this. It's all embedded with all of that stuff in his shoulders and all that. You see it? There's his lungs. Those are the bones. You see that? There's his liver. And he is clothed and he is encapsulated in stone, and I have done this process. I understand the process. So don't think that you're just being told, see, this is what it looks like inside him. There's no question what it is. Anyway, so I want you to see this coming up video, and you need to send this to your professors and your administrators at your schools, because they're not doing the job they should for you. They should be looking into this stuff. I have DNA tests that are 100% conclusive, 3 separate tests on giant human beings up to 200 feet tall. Not on these guys here, but they're very simple to test, and the DNA is in there. It does not deteriorate. They were wrong about all of that stuff. They're finding it in mud now because I sent them the information that they were mud fossils. So instead of talking to me, they go and look in mud now. Oh yeah, look, there's mud. It has DNA. Well, they're eating up the guy's flesh. That's the mud. They have no clue about this. So they have to investigate this, and they are letting you people down terribly. Alright, just to get a good lay of the land, these are what I'm calling the 2 feet, if you can see here. And this whole area here, you see this? You see how the different texture, this has run off into this area over here. And that's what creates the greenery because of the blood. And then I will show you in a minute how this all congealed down here. And there's other areas that this blood has run off in. So the earth is literally covered with creatures. So that's just a fact, and you have to deal with it and look at it and try to understand it. Alright, let's discuss this, this foot in relation to the giant feet that I'm going to show you, or have shown you. Now, this is a new hominid we believe it's a hominid, and it's new, and it's not been seen before, and it's what we're calling the no-toes. And this particular one was found by Tish Egerton in Missouri. I have them here. I found 5 years ago in Connecticut that are complete. And as a matter of fact, this one right here is what they would look like if they didn't erode in the toes away, because this is how they come enclosed like this, and that's the tread of the bottom and so forth. And it actually appears almost constructed. You see this? There's a layer of sole material, and I have some that are complete on the bottom, and it bubbles up instead of arching like this in the ones that are complete. Now, let's discuss this, because let's talk about what we're seeing on that plateau. This is where the bone is. Right there, that's the bone. Now, in that plateau, you'll see a swirl come off of that bone. And I believe that swirl are these. Now, these are not seen in the human foot that I'm aware of. They could be tendinous, or they could be a bony material, and they're seen from underneath with this, and they're very red, which is the ferrous oxide of organic bloody flesh. And you see it all over, and the dark areas are the deoxygenated blood, which is the vein blood. So you'll see red and you'll see black, and in her case this is fairly well bleached out, and it eroded between the toes. Now, so here we are, here's the bone. The side broke off, which they will break off on all of them because that's where the tibula would sit. And here is that's where the normal bone is on the complete one, and that's where the bone sat right there. You can see it in the shadow, and that black is what they call bone black. That's where it bled from the bone as it cracked. All right, so that's the structure we're dealing with. And this is seen in the Egyptian pyramid statuization creatures. And they were statues inside, people inside of statues. And they were gods or leaders or whatever they did, but that's what happened. So let's go through the other details here. Very strange, interesting, not expected development. And we have no toes like this, which are a little bigger than humans. I have the one I showed you right here, which is similar to a human. And we have a guy found some out in California, or at least one out there that's 6 feet long. So they're in every different type of configuration. All right, consider this. That's the plateau with the bone right there. That's all it is the bone. And coming off has that little swirl that I showed you in the other one. That's his other foot as far as I'm concerned. Now, look at this. I am going to put the foot right here. That's the bone. You see that round area in the shadow? That's the bone, the same as this bone right here. If I put this foot right where these feet are, what happens is the toes are down here, and this whole thing has leached in. And what happens is it's the effluence of of a creature's body will flow away, and they'll just flow away from the central point, which you can see. And you see all this red blood, green growth. That's from red blood. Red blood leaking into the ground causes fertility. It makes things grow. And as you continue down this strip of blood that ran down, you get down here into areas that are very strange. See, it all leaked down in this area. And as you come down here, I don't know what this is, but it does not look normal and natural to me. And this is all has leaked down from, or not necessarily this is leaked down, but this may have collapsed down. And it all is part of this greenery, which is the effluent that ran off from the feet, which are right here. Here's the feet. And when we go into this and look at it, that is the top of the foot, and you can see the flare. You see the way this thing flares? They splay out like this. Tree rings don't do that. They're round, like they stay round like this. This is the round of the bone, and then you start to build up layers of fleshy material around the bone itself, and this is also calcified and so forth. There's different names for it, but you end up with these layers similar to tree rings, except they flare. And that's what you see here. And these are the blood spots that are feeding this. And there are other spots that will be blood here and there. And as you go up the sides of it, it's extremely apparent. It's all red, and all the veins and arteries and blood vessels are there. And the ferrous oxides are all over the place. And the limestone of the tendons it's totally apparent. And I'll show you that in other shots. All right, these are tree rings, and rarely do they flare like you saw in the other thing. They more or less stay a similar distance apart as they go around. They don't swish way open like what you saw on the foot. All right, pay close attention to this. This is where the piece goes off into the tendinous or bony material that I showed before. Alright, this is the side of that big foot. The red is ferrous oxide, the big chunks around the sides there. Those are the tendinous materials. It's porphyritic basalt with limestone. And there's a formula to it. It's calcium CaCO3 with all kinds of different little fibers in it. All right, I've looked over this foot very, very carefully. It's 100% organic, and this is the type of tissue colors that you see, the red ferrous oxide, the black oxides. This, I assume, was probably a blood vessel, and they sort of congeal by themselves, and because of the tubing that surrounds them, is virtually an inert type of tubing, and in these big structures it becomes quite like a housing. All right, these are some tendinous blocks that have fallen and broken off, and they break off in chunks with flat planes on them, and you see the blood has run out of them. They run out of the flat surfaces that are like layers. And I'm going to show you some plant material. Hold on one second. It's totally different. These are fibrils which have little chunks in them, and plant is a little bit different. I'll show you. All right, this is plant cellular material. You see these are the cell walls, and these are all of these little vascular tubing network throughout those. They use that for what's called turgidity. That means that the plant can move around and twist and do all the things it does by filling up these little vessels. But look at this structure. Look at these tubes here in particular, because I'm going to show you something that you're going to have a hard time believing, but it's a fact. Look at that thing exactly inside. Look at the structure in there, how cool that is. Now, I'm going to show you something here. Hold on a second. Let me see if we can show you something that is very interesting. How about that? That is... Nobody can explain these things, but you just saw what you saw, and that's what these things are. Now, how about this? Hold on one second. How about that? That's the same thing. Those are the structural cell membranes that have structure to them. They are the things that contain the cell contents that are the gooey stuff. When you die and that gooey stuff evaporates and what they call sublimates out, you end up with these pockets here of structural components. Sometimes they're full of whatever, but they're very easily excavated because they are structurally surrounding something that invaded it and filled it in, that is less dense. And that's just a fact. They're all over the world, Cappadocia, I mean, it's everywhere. And they're just not, they're so spectacular, so ridiculously huge that people just can't get their minds around it. But there's so much that proves this, you have to either be deluded or I mean, you have to be deluded to not allow yourself to think about this. So think about it, just think about it. Now this is plant material, but plant and is different than animal material. I work in the animal creature realm, and I have done the chemistry, and I have done the DNA tests. I didn't do them myself. I had them done by experts in paleo lab and ancient protocols, and the DNA is correct, the human stuff that I have. And I've had CAT scans done, but very, very graciously done from Jesse Garan, who does racing car engines, industrial equipment, did them at no charge in the interest of science. 7 CAT scans. Very, very expensive equipment, very expensive, costly people doing this. And he will be remembered for his contribution. All right, so that's the deal. This is real. It should be taken into account for its reality, because it has extreme consequences on our beginnings. And it's time to consider those in a realistic way and study them in a realistic way and not laugh at them, not just belittle them and ignore them, because that's not science. That's not anywhere near science. And it's not helpful to our society or to anyone. And students are being extremely harmed from this. They are taking out lifelong loans to be educated by people who will not take the time to look at what is being presented that is undeniable and discounts what they are selling to these poor, unsuspecting students. And that is a fiduciary failure, a legal obligation that is not being met. That's my opinion, and that's, I believe, a fact.